Hello, everyone. Am I audible to each and every one of you? Yes, great. That sounds great. So we'll start with the session right now. All right. So hello, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Sonali Bedi, and I'm the Alumni Relations Lead from Jaro Education. Jaro Education is India's most trusted online higher education company, founded in the year 2009, where we have transformed careers more than 350,000. And since then, Jaro has partnered with top global and national institutes like Wharton, IIMs, and IITs. We are glad to brief you about Jaro Connect portal and its application, which is available on Android and iOS to all our learners. The Jaro Connect portal is one-stop destination for students, providing various benefits like job opportunities, networking with peers, free boot camps, and webinars. Now, to get started, our topic for today's bootcamp is product management, and we have Mr. Animesh Chandra to enlighten us with his insightful words. Animesh Chandra is an experienced product manager with a track record of success spanning over 9 years. He has played a crucial role in driving achievements for top Indian startups and multinational companies. During his 5-year tenure at Expedia Group, he has been a driving force behind the development and successful launch of new products. His expertise extends to renowned brands like Expedia.com, Zomato, and Zoomcar. Additionally, Animesh has taken on the role of product mentor, providing guidance and inspiration to aspiring product managers in their professional journeys. He is passionate about leveraging technology to elevate the travel experience. His educational background includes graduation from the esteemed Indian Institute of Technology, Roorkee. With proficiency in product analytics, vision, and strategy, he excels in end-to-end product execution and skillful stakeholder management. Ladies and gentlemen, may I invite our today's speaker, Mr. Animesh Chandra. Sir, the mic is all yours.
Great. Thank you for the introduction, Sonali. It's
Most
great.
welcome, sir.
It's great to connect with you all. I see that we have an amazing turn up, almost 185 folks. I'll try my best to ensure that at the end of this session, you are basically able to drive value out of the time that you're investing over here. And I'll actually be focusing on sort of introduction to product product management altogether. Okay, so I'll start with sharing my screen. Great. 1 second. Awesome. Great. I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, absolutely, sir. It is.
Cool. So let me start off with product management 101. So I know that we have a pretty good mix of audience altogether, that we have folks who are could be fresh graduates who are keen to know what exactly product management is. Could be folks that who are already experienced and they are now interested in switching roles to product management. Or it could be that general enthusiasts that who want to understand more that within the technology space, why product management is gaining so popularity, what exactly the role does. And it could be that this presentation could basically spark an interest into them. So let's start with the first slide. Before I deep dive into this one, I would actually like to use a very real world analogy to understand what is a role of a product manager. So by the end of it, I'm hoping that you guys would be better able to understand how what does a product manager really do. So the analogy would be a film director who's responsible for making a film. So if you'll see that within the film, making process, you'll find different departments who are basically involved into it. You will have actors, writers, cinematographers, you have editors, then you have folks who are working on the operation side, on the marketing side, on the production side. Now, net, all of these departments are basically very crucial to deliver the end product, that is the film. But why the role of a film director is so crucial in this arrangement is because uh, if you see, a film director is the one that basically comes up with a certain vision that he or she has for that particular film. They would already have a script written, a story written, but it's up to them that like how they basically want to deliver that film. So that's where like if I have to draw out an analogy, a film director ensures that like whatever film that he or she is developing, they are able to reach to the right target market. And that's what even a product manager does. They have to ensure that like whatever product or solution that they are trying to deliver, it reaches to the right target market. Product management requires a lot of cross-functional collaboration, and same thus it happens in the film making process. Film director has to work very closely with the actors, writers, cinematographers, editors to ensure that like the net output is basically to the expectations. Then as filmmaking process is a very iterative process, like you have there are multiple takes in a shot. Until unless the director, film director is satisfied with that shot, the kind only he'll be basically giving a go ahead. Similar to here also, because since product manager is leading the vision of that product, he's always involved throughout the end-to-end product development cycle to ensure that we are basically on track with what we are trying to achieve. Then yes, absolutely, that the end product, when a film is made, it is built keeping the audience in mind, and same for us. For product managers, we have to build for our end customers. Then finally, we have performance monitoring, how your product is actually performing. In case of filmmaking, the performance monitoring is basically the box office collection. For us, it is basically what business value we were basically able to achieve, what customer problems we were able to solve. So using now, since we have established a good foundation to understand what like how a product manager's role is in synergy to any other role, like in a real life scenario, like I'll jump back to the slide that you're currently seeing. In a tech company, you'll see product product manager basically playing a role of a very efficient collaborator that ensures that like there is synergy between the technology domain, the business domain, and the design domain. Business can encapsulate everything when it comes to marketing, sales, strategy. Then design is where you work with graphic designers, UI, UX designers. Technology is where you work with software developers, database engineers, and then you are basically at the centroid of this overall collaboration to deliver the vision that you have for your product. Now, as you'll research more about the role, you'll find something interesting that like there is, in fact, like not just about the role. I would say that like when I started my career, there had been like throughout my close to 9 years of experience, there had been like a lot more confusions around like what exactly are the roles and responsibility of a product manager. Because many times you are pushed into some of the responsibilities which are not exactly which are misconceived as to be your responsibilities, which end up just creating a lot of onus onto you, so that like ultimately you're not able to deliver on the end result you aspire to do. So to summarize, a product manager is basically, we term it as a mini CEO, because since CEO is also playing a role of a centroid within the company, that like they have to ensure that like they are tying all the teams within the company together to deliver the end result. And the same thing goes for a product manager for their specific product. And they have to be strategic thinkers. They have to ensure that like whatever solutions or initiative they are launching from a longer term perspective, how it is going to impact uh, a company, how it is going to impact the customers, and if the impact is way more, how it is going to shape up the entire industry also. Then the product managers have to be super detailed oriented. They have to be foremost advocate of your customers, because at the end a business is being run by the end customers who are using your products. So you have to act as advocate of your customers and understand their problems and then build solutions accordingly. And then finally, yes, they should understand technology, because this role is quite prominent, specifically when it comes to tech companies. So at least you should understand technology. I'll talk about what not a product manager is. What is not a product manager? They're basically not the boss. By that, what I mean is that many times, like it happens that like since we are sort of heading a certain project, you might get a misconception or a false sense of authority that like I even have like a super authority over all the stakeholders with whom I'm working. But no, you have to work collaboratively with all of them. They are your stakeholders and they're not your direct reportees. And one of the major confusion that like you'll in fact see like even in bigger, more established organization is around project manager. Many times so like even early on in my career when I was working for startups like Zomato and Zoomcar, where we didn't had proper distinctions between the role, many times I ended up playing the role of a project manager also, where I was chasing the development team. I was using the analytics team, the UI UX team, to ensure that like we are basically on track with the deliveries. But ultimately, that's not the responsibility of a product manager.
Sorry to disturb you, Mr. Animesh. The thing is, the slide that we can see is only written product management. Are you changing the slide as of now? Because we are not able to see that. So.
I'm actually talking about what is a product manager.
All right, not a problem. I thought that you have extended the thing, so that is just not a problem. So you can go ahead with it.
Okay, great, right. And then since we say that like we are an advocate of a strong advocate of customers, it doesn't mean that like we have to be like we are working as customer support representative or a sales representative. So this basically creates a very clear distinction. So down the line, this clear line of roles and responsibility personally helped me also to understand that like where my focus should be. And yeah. Then an extension to that is that one of the biggest dilemma of product management is that, like, as I said, your role is super collaborative. You have to work with a lot of stakeholders. And the most challenging part of it is that none of them are actually reporting to you, except if you're at a senior role, you'll have a couple of junior product managers reporting to you. But apart from that, like almost at a project on an average minimum, you'll at least have more than 20 stakeholders and from different domains. So that's where product managers, one of the most crucial skill sets comes into place, that like they have to be strong influencers. They have to bring everyone on board. They have to ensure that like everyone is, since they do not have direct authority, all they have is influence. They're able to bring their specific skill set to ensure that like they're able to create a more streamlined and collaborative structure altogether. And yeah, as I said, that like you do not manage the people, so it becomes actually quite difficult for you that like in case whenever you are seeing delays in the delivery, delays in the overall delivery, or in fact you are seeing that like some of the expectations of the end product is not met, you have to be very patient, very understanding. So yeah, so that's more from a practical world, what challenges we face day to day. Great. So now, as we have established what is a role of a product manager, now I'll give more understanding around what does a product manager do. That on the slide, we'll basically get into more details on each aspect. But right now, if you will see, um, we have we have a very uh, we have to come up with an approach where we have an internal system where the internal system includes your own strategy building process, where you are able to gather a lot of customer requirements. You are able to get customer insights from different panels to better understand customer problems. You work on customer segmentation, that like what are the different categories of customers that you have. You have to ensure that like how you are going to build your product into different phases and eventually scale that specific product. Then when it comes to externalization, you have to finally think about how you'll finally deliver that product to your end customer, how you will work with the marketing team or with the product marketing team to ensure that like your product is properly marketed. By properly marketed, it doesn't really mean that like sending marketing campaigns to your customers. It can be as simple as you launch a certain product. You would have seen that like you go to a website or app, you see a tool tip saying that like, hey, we have launched this new feature, try it out, or something like that. So that's basically product marketing. And then finally, we have established product stabilization. So that's when a product is launched. You have to ensure that like you have proper feedback mechanism in place so that you are able to net stabilize your product, that like it does not have any glitches. It is a good product market fit, and it is solving your customer problems, and you have a proper monitoring in place to ensure that like you have sufficient data to validate that. When you combine these two things, finally what you get is a product strategy. A product strategy is, to simplify, it is just what you're trying to achieve, how you are going to achieve it, and what is going to be the end result. While a product roadmap is more actionable form of it, how you are able, like it is basically more scoped in version of, more magnified version of how you are going to achieve it, where you have more actionables that like every quarter, this is how we are going to deliver it, and this is the capabilities it is going to unlock. And then finally, reporting and analysis. Here I would like to pause for a bit. I would encourage that like in case if any of one of you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat so that you do not forget it. And then later at the end of the session, I will have to take up your questions. Great. So now let's deep dive into the process of product development, because that's where like all of the magic basically happens. So if you'll see, the process includes asking a lot of questions. It can be, so the flow that you currently see on your screen, that is why, who, what, how, and so what, is a very logical flow.
See the process flow on the screen itself, right?
Sorry?
We cannot see the screen of process flow of your presentation. Yeah.
Oh. The process where I have why, who, what.
No, sir. It is not visible at all. And we are yet stuck to the product management 101 page as of now.
Oh, sorry about that. 1 second.
Not a problem, sir.
Let me do it. Yeah. Right now, are you able to see these 3 overlapping circles?
Yes, absolutely.
Great. And now, what is a product manager?
Yes. Now it is see.
Achha, now, so basically, this was the previous slide that I was talking about. The internal process and the external process, and you come up with the product strategy. And then finally, this is the process. So I'll keep it in this mode only so that like it is easier to view. Okay. So Sonali, are you able to see this, the process slide?
Yes, yes, I am able to.
Okay, great. Let's make it 782. Right. So like as I was saying that like the product development cycle is actually very logical flow that you can take to solving any problem. I would in fact say like it can be a real world problem also. Let's say somebody comes to you and say, hey, let's say the air conditioner is not working. So that's was a problem. And that's the only thing that you know. So what are some set of logical questions that you are able to ask so that you are able to understand more about the problem? And that would just help you zero down to a certain options that like what basically can go wrong. And then you can start figuring out how I can basically solve this problem and ultimately reach to my end goal. So I'll like sort of quickly give you high level ideas and then we'll have a more detailed view of each of this process. So basically why do we think uh, this is a significant problem for us to solve? So that's where you try to gather data to understand, is this problem really worth solving? Is it problem really impacting a lot of our customers? So that's where the whole logic of building a business case comes into play. Then for whom you are trying to solve this problem? Who is your target segment? Who is your target customer? It could be that like you are working, let's say at Facebook. It could be that like if there is any issue with the Facebook app, it could be that like it's not impacting throughout for everyone. Like it could be that you have launched, you see a constant customer feedback that we want this functionality, but like it could be that like not your entire customer base requires that functionality. It could be a certain segment of your customer who requires that functionality. So it could be like exactly like having a more directed approach. Then what will you do to solve that problem? So it is exactly like the solutioning part of it. Then how will you do it? It is basically how will you structure your solutioning part into making it more actionable altogether. And then finally, so what is the end, how you are able to track your performance altogether, that like if it is actually solving a problem or not. So let's start diving into each of these processes because that will give you a very in-depth knowledge of this is actually like just one quick tip that like this is the actual process that we follow whenever we solve any product problem. So yeah, it's actually a real world scenario, I would say. Then we start with the first question, that is why, or the business case building part. Before I deep dive into this, I'll give you some of the current examples that I currently have. Just wanted to confirm that, like, are you guys able to see, would you invest in this slide? Sonali, can you please confirm?
Pardon, sir?
Okay, okay. So I got the answer in the chat. Great.
Yeah.
No worries, huh? Great. So why would you invest into this? So I'll give you an example. So currently I'm working with Expedia, and within Expedia, I'm working in the cruise line of business. So basically you can book a cruise on Expedia. And so when I got responsibility of heading the cruise team, one of the major customer insight that I was able to gain from the overall industry was that cruise as an industry hasn't seen a significant technology penetration. Because now if you will see that, like when it comes to hotel booking or flights booking, we have a very high technology penetration, which means that now majority of the bookings that happen, it happens on offline. So that share has almost flipped now. Like we have close to 75 and 25, 75% of the bookings happen online, while 25% happens online, offline. While for cruise industry, although it's almost $54 billion industry, but still when it comes to technology side for booking cruise, we see that like almost 80% of our customers still prefer booking a cruise offline through a travel agent compared to coming to a website and booking it. And it is not just an Expedia problem, it is like in general for all online travel agency. So when we started deep diving to understand this problem, we I'll talk about that, like what are the different modes we basically use to gather more feedback from customers. One of the interesting insights we found out was that because if you'll see that we saw customers who were actually booking flights, hotels on Expedia, that means they already know the convenience of booking anything online, but still they were going to the offline medium of talking to a travel agent when it comes to cruise. So isn't that counterintuitive? Because since you already know the convenience of using technology, but you're not using it for a specific line of business. So we realize when we further deep dive to understand this thing, we realize that when it comes to getting a lot more detailed information, we're not getting enough information about the cruise in itself. Because if you'll see, cruise in itself is basically a vacation. Because let's say you book a 7-day cruise, you are on that ship for the next 7 days. So that is your vacation. So you get to experience the cruise. The cruise stops at different ports. You have different activities, and then you again hop back on the cruise. So we realized that like whatever information about the ships that we are getting, it was not enough. Customers really didn't knew that like what are the amenities, like enough amenities that are present on the cruise. They really didn't know that what are the different ports at which that cruise is going to stop, and what are the different activities that will happen on the port. Again, so like there was a lot of ambiguity which a travel agent was able to answer, majorly because since they have been booking these cruise for a longer time, they have direct relationship with these cruise lines. So that basically became a business case. So if I have to connect it with this, when I had to create a business case to pitch it to the leadership to invest into this thing, my main focus was that I wanted my, if you'll see the third line, like it was that I framed it in a way that like I wanted to create a cruise platform that is specifically targeting the online customers. And when it comes to needs, their needs are met when it comes to they are able to get all the details that are necessary for booking a cruise online, and which basically they are able to get, in fact, all the information which an offline agent is able to provide. Then what are the key benefits? The key benefit is that our goal is to increase the cruise online booking share, because we have higher profit margin when it comes to if anyone is booking online. And net we are able to retain their customer. We are able to retain that customer online, and we are able to make their cruise booking experience more seamless. So that was the summary of the business case that I built. Although when it comes to business case, you have a lot more uh, uh, a structure that you have to put into play. Like everyone uses a different form of structure, but like it's just like the building blocks that you're currently seeing. Again, it can be very logical. We can customize these blocks, but the net outcome is that like what is your target customer? A business case is basically a couple of page document that helps anyone understand what problem you are trying to solve, why, and what's the outcome. As simple as that. So we focus upon what your target customers are, what their business needs are, how will it impact customers, how will it impact business, and what is going to be the end result. And what if something goes wrong? What's your plan? What if something goes right as per your expectation? And what? It's as simple as that. So that so this first part is actually the most crucial part of product development, because it helps you get funding for your project. By funding, I mean that like it can be interest from the leadership that let's build this thing. And in fact, like I would say that like even the smallest features that we build as product managers. since, as I informed earlier, that like we have responsibility, but we do not have authority, we have to always ensure that like we are collaborating strongly with all of our stakeholders, bringing them on board onto your idea. The next part comes is for whom you are basically building this product for. So this delves a lot around understanding your customers, understanding your customer needs. So remember when I gave that analogy of uh, understanding your customers. So I'll give you another example. Like it's actually a pretty interesting study that I did. So when I was at Zomato, my one of the goals that I was given, that like we have to increase the ads engagement, the click-through rate of ads. So whenever you open Zomato's app, the few recommended restaurants that you see on the home screen of the app, they are actually sponsored ads. The goal was that like how we can double the clicks happening on all of these ads. And so for that, we thought that like uh, let's first try to understand what our customer really needs. It could be that like we were using a very standard template for all the customers. So we used a data clustering technique to create customer segments. And out of those customer segments, we were able to find very interesting customer patterns. We were able to find, let's say, 15%. So these are basically hypothetical numbers, but like it will help you understand. 10 to 15% of the customers only use Zomato during their office hours and the lunch time. That was between 12 to 2 p.m. There was another segment of customers who used to use Zomato on weekdays for drinks and nightlife. While there was another segment who used to only use Zomato for uh, weekends for drinks and nightlife. Another customer base like who used to use Zomato only for booking some bulk orders. So that was actually very interesting to see. Sorry, I see that Deepika Pathak has raised her hand. Deepika, I guess that like we would be able to take questions in some time. I would encourage that like if you can please post your question in the Slack chat. Oh, sorry, the Zoom chat, and we can take it up after.
So again, the students are facing the issues related to the screen that they are not able to switch. Can you refresh it and start again? Not a problem to that.
Are you able to see this screen start with interviews?
Start with interviews, yes, we can.
So I'm on the screen only.
All right, great.
Yeah. Right. So I was just giving more context before we get into this one. So coming back to the Zomato example. So as we created these different user segment, we were able to identify our customers better. So we showed personalized ad to these different customer segments, and we had amazing results. Like we were almost able to double the click-through rate just by, for example, showing a customer X who is interested in drinks and nightlife for a certain hours of the day. We used to show them that specific ads only. So that basically shows the power of understanding your customer. So when it comes to product management, we basically call it creating user personas. So which means that like now you can use different methods to understand your customers. Many times companies basically have these one-on-one interviews with the customers, although it's not scalable, but like it is able to give you a lot more information. You can send customer surveys. You can use data to understand how your customer is interacting with your platform. Combining all of this, you'll be able to capture something like this. I just confirming, like I'm on the slide called as capture data. So when you I hope you are able to see the screen when it comes to capture data. Great. Yeah. So when you combine all of these different sources of customer feedback, we basically are able to build user stories. So when it comes to user stories, what exactly user stories are, that like let's say for Zomato, it can be as a Zomato user, I want to know what are the best nightlife enjoying places in Gurgaon, so that I am able to enjoy after office hours. Okay, so that can be a user story. And then you basically create multiple user stories after talking to your different customers, and then you'll combine all of those user stories and convert it into a persona. A persona means a personality. Remember the personality example I gave? It can be personality example for a for every business. There can be different personalities that they are basically targeting, and we basically called it as user personas. And now you as a product manager, it's up to you that you want to go after a certain persona first and then the afterwards. Next, we have value proposition. Value proposition means that what value exactly you are trying to offer your customers. So when it comes to delivering value for your customers, remember the Expedia example I gave. So my end goal was that I am able to provide this value to my customer, that now they can, similar to their other travel booking experiences, they can book a cruise with the same convenience by sitting at home, and they do not have to talk to any agent, spend a lot of hours on the same, and they are able to seamlessly do it. So that's my value that I am offering to my customers. So that basically becomes an edge for your customers. So if you'll see the third point, that it is, let's start from the top, that what problems that you are trying to solve for your customers, then what specific benefits that you are expecting to deliver to them, and then finally, why should your customer stick to you and not to your competition. So that's where understanding your customers better gives you an edge. So this is actually a very impactful line. I would say that any I won't say a product manager, but anyone who is into any form of a problem solving role, they would actually connect to it better. That whatever end user, I won't say customer, or any end user, they really do not care about the efforts that you're putting in. They do not care about what your solution is. All they care about is their problem. When you have an angry customer calling into customer support, all they care about is how and how and who will resolve their problem as soon as possible. They do not care that what the process is. They do not care uh, uh, whose fault it is, but they wanted to address it sooner. So that can be, again, that can be your value proposition for your customers. That if I'm part of the customer service team, if I'm a product manager for the customer service team, my value proposition for customers could be that irrespective if it's company's fault or customer's fault, we should be aiming for an expedited problem resolution for our customers. Right. Now we get into the interesting part, I would say, the actual problem solving part of product development. Just to quickly recap, we first created a business case. We got validation from the stakeholders. We brought them on board. Okay, let's do this thing. Then we identified uh, who are who our target customers are, and exactly for whom we are trying to solve the problem. Now we are getting into how we are building that problem, building a solution. So this is the solutioning part is basically more actionable plan. Now you'll have abhi tak we were basically talking about the overall strategy part. Now we'll get into nitty-gritties of it. uh, net you have heard this road mapping a lot. So roadmap is basically a more practical timeline over which anyone, like any of your stakeholder, can basically get a visibility. Okay, at the end of this roadmap, I'm able to see that like you are able to launch XYZ product. And this is basically sort of a planned uh, planned process, or like planned deliveries in order to achieve that end goal. It can be different people have different way of representing it. It can be defined into phases also. Now it can be current, near term, and long term. You can also punch your roadmap into phases also. Like let's say for the first 2 quarters you're working on, it can be you're building on the foundation part. Then the next two quarters you can dedicate to building the user experience part. And the third can be the launch part. So it's up to you that like how you are actually building your roadmap. Again, the key here is that you'll actually find plethora of templates how to build a product development roadmap or something like that. But even I like to keep things very simple, that like at the core of it, irrespective whichever job role you are, I would say that like if you have to really understand that like you have a product manager's mindset or not, you have to just think that like, are you solving, because every role will have their own different challenges. You have to just figure out that like, do you basically take a logical problem solving approach whenever trying to solve a particular problem? If yes, then absolutely you show a great signal to become a product manager as well. Then after creating a roadmap, you get into now we are slowly we are getting into more realistic solutioning part. Abhi, we have just created like earlier on we created a strategy. Now we decided that like we created sort of a theoretical documentation and plan that like what we are going to deliver and how. Now we are getting into what our end customers will basically see. So a product manager will basically, many times it happens that like they start with the sketching part. Sketching, like, I mean that like it is not that like you have to be a good designer or a sketcher altogether. It is that like you can just use a pen or a paper, or you can use any tools that we have. Can be as simple as MS Paint, also Photoshop, also like anything that you fancy. um, you basically start creating some rough experiences that like how you expect your customer, like the product that you're trying to build to basically look like. For example, you are trying to book a search experience for your customers, how your customers can basically search on. You start with that, like when your customer will open up your app, then the next thing is they click on the magnifying button. And as soon as they click on the magnifying button, they basically get list of all the restaurants. And then you will have a filter button there. Then once anyone clicks on any options, they'll basically open up the restaurant page. What all will basically be shown in that. So that's the rough sketching part. Many times it's basically just the brainstorming part of it. Then once that you sort of have a satisfactory flow in place, then you as a product manager, you basically create some wireframes. So ideally these wireframes are slightly higher fidelity compared to sketches. You basically translate these sketches into wireframes, and then you start collaborating with other stakeholders. You start uh, displaying that like what's the product that you are expecting. You work with the analytics team, you work with the marketing team, you work with the designer team to get their early feedback. um, and then once you get a go ahead from the wireframing stage, so I would say that like higher fidelity is mostly where I hand it over to the designers, and they basically create a more higher fidelity. By higher fidelity, I mean a more realistic looking, and so that we can share it to higher up in the leadership, so that they are able to understand which this is the end product what we are going to see. Then one of the interesting thing that has basically I've actually seen quite amazing evolution happened in the user experience space, is that like over my course of 8 to 9 years of experience, I've seen that like early on, we used to have just one single domain called as graphic designing, where you were just purely like, I mean, which was just focused upon how the looks of the platform, how a website would look, how an app would look. But then over the years, it has basically got more intricate. It has got more data driven. That like even the designers, but basically the UI UX, the user interface and user experience designers, that's what we call UI UX designers, uh, have basically now this in itself has become have got a lot of very scientific process into place, that like how do you define that experience. uh, you would have subconsciously experienced that thing, that like some of the apps that you frequently use, you feel that like it's so simpler to use, that like now you don't even have to recall that like how that app really functions. Now I'll give you my example now, that like whenever I have to make any payment, I know the specific uh, uh like I have developed a certain muscle memory for myself, that like I just open the Paytm app, I scan, I enter my code, the UPI code, and I know the payment is done. So you know that like so that's basically example of a great user experience design, that basically makes it so simple and so seamless for anyone to understand uh, how it should be. On the top of it, it actually looks trust me that like it actually looks very simple, but it's actually really not, because we like it's a very data driven design based approach. Just to give this example that you're currently seeing on the screen, let's say talking about a travel industry example. uh, if you, let's say we have two user personas for us. One is the traveler who's trying to book, and we have a travel agent. So if your UI UX team is basically having a singular approach, that like let's build a certain experience, and that experience will be applicable for all travelers, and it would also be applicable for travel agents, but it really doesn't work. Some of the interesting insights that you have seen, that like at Expedia, we have travel agents. In fact, we have launched some of the experiences on app, but we really didn't see higher engagement. And so this was early on when I joined Expedia, and one of the few interesting things that like I was able to see was that although our the new experience was performing greatly for certain group of travel agent, but for the other ones it was barely, like it was in fact underperforming altogether. When we realized, when I started deep diving into the data, I realized that many of these travel agents were using very older technology of operating systems. Means that like either they were not they were using an older versions of mobile phones, which were really didn't had that higher quality or like higher resolution, which was compatible with the new experience that we have built. Or in fact, many times like it was not able to get sized properly. By that, what I mean is that like if you're trying to open your app, like if your phone is like on a different, like on an older app version, like it was basically the experience was really coming out to be very broken experience altogether, and so that's why we started seeing a decline in the engagement. So that really gave us insights key. uh, we have to consider all of these factors also, since you cannot control your customer side of thing, you can control things on your side. So that's where we pulled back the product. We launched two versions of it. One version was a very high quality user experience. High quality, I mean resolution wise. The other one was like slightly low fidelity, that was even compatible with the older app versions. So that basically shows the power of how you are able to tie your user personas, and ultimately able to translate it into building a good user experience. And then we basically get into defining the functionality part of it. So just quickly reiterating, we in order to, when we got into this section of building your product, we started off with creating a roadmap. That is your actionable plan. Then we got into creating the user interface. So user interface is basically the design part of it, while user experience is basically how that flow is going to look. By flow, I mean that, like, taking the Paytm example, you open up the Paytm app, you know that like the scanning is one of the most prominent feature that anyone is going to use. You have that piece centrally paced as soon as you open up the app. So that's user experience. You know that like what's the logical flow customer is going to take. Um, uh, the, there is something interesting also that like you'll see all of these prominent call to action buttons are always placed closer to your thumb's reach, because a study was done that like they always whenever everyone's like anyone holds a smartphone, they operate it majorly using their thumb, and whatever things basically come to the reach of their thumb, they always try to place uh, all call to action buttons in that reach only, so that it becomes very easier for customers at their, as they are moving from one step to the other. So yeah, that's actually a great example of how you define that experience in collaboration with real world scenarios altogether. Now, we then, after building the experience, we get into, now we've defined, let's say we have to build product scanning, like uh, a QR code scanning product for a customer, that like you can scan a QR code and you can, uh, and you are able to make payment. Now we basically get into defining the functionality. So that's where product manager roles come into play again, where they have to break this bigger functionality into smaller functions. So that so that's where we work with project managers and engineering managers. Let's say we start with, to start off with, we want a functionality that is able to scan QR code. So that is one functionality. One functionality is, as soon as you scan a QR code, you start getting payment options. Either pay using your UPI, or it could be pay using your wallet. That is one functionality. Other is the actual payment step altogether. And then finally, you have the confirmation step. And then you also have the negative scenarios in place. If any technology is not working, then what would that, and how would you define a solution for that? So you as a product manager, you break it down into smaller logical functionalities, and then you work with the engineering team and the project management team to see that, let's start, let's say in the first couple of weeks, like in the first 4 weeks, we'll build a QR code scanning functionality. So that can be one of my product feature. So that will go first. And then the next phase will come into payment method, and then other subsequent step that I created. So you basically create a product backlog, and then a backlog is basically just compilation of different features that will ultimately join together to form the final product. And then you organize it into a certain. And yes, after all of this hard work, you basically get into the final launch part of your product. And then when it comes to launching, this is basically one of the most, I would say, underlooked part when it comes to product management. Why I, as a product manager, I believe that like it's like uh, you launch a particular film and you think like your job is done. It's actually not. You have to properly market that film. You have to ensure that like which target segment you actually build that film for, they like it is able to reach to them. The same thing happens with your product. So now, since going back to my initial analogy that like you are a films director, it's your vision, it's your strategy. So same thing goes with product manager, that like you are the advocate of your product, because it's like if your product is successful, you will get majority of the kudos, but it fails, then again it will come back onto you only. So it's up to you that like how you are, even after the launch, you are collaborating with different teams to ensure that like your product is properly marketed. You work with the marketing team, you work with the social media team, you work with the launch team to ensure that like your product is actually able to reach to your customers. Because many times it happens that like you, let's say as a customer, you as a company, you launched loyalty program, right? And then you realize that your customers do not know that like you have a loyalty program or not. Although your product is good, but until unless they come to your website, especially, it could be that like they might find that loyalty program on some of their competitors, and now they have made the switch. So that's the importance of it. Then we finally get into the final phase of it, that is so what. So that's where this is again a very crucial part of the entire product development phase, where we have to ensure that like we have proper product monitoring in place. Can be that like similar to the film industry example I gave. You have to keep a track on the box office collection. You have to keep a track that like exactly in which tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 cities your film is performing the best, and which customer segment is actually enjoying it a lot, so that like it gives you great feedback, so that next time when you're building a film, you'll keep all of those things in mind. Same thing in product management. You should have proper monitoring in place. By monitoring, I mean analytics wise, so that you are able to capture that like how your product is performing. Because as I said that like your work is not done as you launch the product. It just happens that like when you launch the product, you stabilize it, and then only you move to the next thing. So this is basically part of stabilization, where you have proper feedback mechanism in place to ensure you are able to listen to your customer responses, that like for majority of your customers, it is basically solving their problem. You're seeing the upside of your product, and yeah, you basically keep on working towards it iteratively. And with this, like I would say, this is sort of the entire thought process that goes end to end when it comes to when you as a product manager got that idea that like this is a problem I have to solve, and then finally you solve it. So this entire life cycle is what we basically call product life cycle. And it's a very iterative approach. It's not that like once you reach to the end of the cycle, you can leave that. You have to constantly ensure that like anytime it happens that like after two years, your product starts becoming irrelevant. So either you make changes to it, or you basically work to ensure that if you have to sort of sunset that product and move on to some other functionalities. With this, like I would like to end with this great message that a product manager or an aspiring product manager or like any problem solver should always keep on their mind, is that like you need to sell the problem that you're trying to solve and not the product. I'll close with a very interesting example. I've always been a very keen observer of Airbnb. So Airbnb is a travel booking platform, but like over the years, it has able to greatly create sort of a very different market image altogether. Because they realized that like one of the crucial customer problems that they were trying to solve, like you as a traveler faces that like whenever you are going on a travel, you are actually going to experience, you aspire to experience that specific place. And you want to experience that place much more closely, so that you are able to get a more enriched memories for yourself. So they realized there were two problems with the current traveling ecosystem. One was travelers were not able to get a very enriched experience, and the other was that they really didn't feel very associated to the place that they are traveling. So they identified these two interesting problems, and you'll basically see this thing into their marketing campaigns, into their product strategies, that they always look out that like how they can enhance the experience part of your travel, how they can make you feel more connected to the community. By that, like they started this collaboration that like you can live like locals and with locals, so that you are able to experience that place in a completely different way altogether compared to when you visit that place as a tourist. And also keeping in mind that like you are comfortable, safe. So they focused on community building, they focused on more experience sharing, and that's why they basically have a more differentiated experience. So net they focused on storytelling when it comes to marketing campaigns, that like instead of saying that like you go to a certain place, they focused more that like you as a travel can have a far different experience when you are tourist compared to a traveler. So with this, I would say that like they focus on selling the problem and not selling their product. And this with this, like I just wanted to put in like all of the tools that are like quite prominent in the market, that are used at different step of product development, that I basically ran you guys through. And right from ideation, customer research, interviews, then user interface designing, wireframing, prototyping, road mapping, project management. So it will just give you more insights and analytics together. So yeah, I think Sonali, we can open up the forum for questions.
All right.
Yeah.
Requesting all the learners to pose their queries one by one or raise their hands if they have any kind of a query accordingly. All right. So I think so we have Neha Pathak first.
Yeah. Hey Neha, hi.
Hello, hi sir. Yeah, it was really great insight which we have got from you. Sir, I have posted my query as well, and maybe I'll repeat because that is the biggest maybe topic which I think should. I mean, I need some tips in case of product management. So recently, I have moved into product management. It's been kind of going to be 2 years now. The biggest challenge which I face, and maybe most of us must be facing with respect to time management, because most of the time we have to collaborate with multiple teams from different areas.
Yeah.
So, do you have any tips for us that how to handle in this scenario? Like, can we have a focus time where we should restrict us to just focus on work which we have got in our plate? Because multiple times the problem which we face is when we are working on a task, multiple people from different areas will try to contact them. So the biggest challenge is, shall we decline their contact or shall we take it up? If we take it up, our focus gets, I mean, lost somewhere, and it takes double the time for the same work. And if we don't take, it will be again the collaboration miss. So any tips around this?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I would say that's actually a great question. And in fact, like even I have struggled a lot like on the same. And I know that like there had been phases that like when at the start of my career, I used to be super collaborative. I used to attend a lot of meetings, working with stakeholders. Then after a certain time, I actually realized that like I was getting burnt out, and I really didn't had enough time to actually focus on the product development. Then I had a phase where I started, like as you said, I basically reduced my stakeholder collaboration significantly. Although I was able to focus more on product development, But then I realized that like it actually started impacting the quality of my product development also, since I was not taking feedback from the different domains within the company, different stakeholders. I was purely building things from my perspective, where at the end of the day, when I used to launch the product, I actually saw impact of those things, like some of the edge cases which could have easily be captured when I was building the product. So I would say that one of the thing that like one of the primary skill of a product manager that you'll actually use throughout your career is prioritization. That is something, because you have to prioritize every day. Like apart from product development, every day you will get almost like, it is like, as I said, that like uh, once you have launched a new product, you will move on to building something else. But the previous products that you've already built, they will often keep getting customer issues, but and they will keep coming back to you, that like you have to parallelly solve those things also. So now you have to, like almost every day, apart from your regular stakeholder meetings, your product development, you have to shell out some time to prioritize that, like what is more important to you. So that's where, like, if somebody comes into you and say, here, why aren't you looking at this customer query, you should always have a strong answer that like I think that like since this is impacting less than 1% of our customers, and I feel that like I can look into this thing couple of weeks down the line, compared to what I'm currently working, it will have a far more bigger impact. So in your case also, I would say uh, when we are working on the initial phase of product development, you have to identify your key stakeholders. By key stakeholders, so I basically divide my stakeholders into two categories. The first one is stakeholders which are very crucial for the product development part. Like, for example, when I'm developing product, I have to constantly talk to the business team. By business teams, I mean like the sales team, like who would give me customer insights, to the customer insights team, who then to the analytics team from whom I'm getting the data. So this is your core group. So I call it basically a core product development group. It will vary from product to product. I ensure that like for the first few weeks when I'm actually developing the product, I collaborate only with this specific group a lot. And then I'll have a broader group who are just more interested to know when this feature will be launched, where we are, how we are. So I would say that like the initial thing that I called out, you should work very closely with your project manager or program manager. I'm not sure that like if you have that person. So he or she will actually ideally, like they are there to help you with these broader communication. So when it comes to when you are into when you're working with your core group, you should partner with your program manager, project manager, to ensure that like they are ideally able to share the updates of the progress where we are with all of these stakeholders. So this was basically one of the thing that like really helped me, and that's why I ensured that like I have that slide in place around a specific responsibility areas. Great.
I hope, Neha, your answers have been taken into consideration. Apart from that, we have now Shamim Ahmed as sir, and I'm unmuting him. Shamim Ahmed, are you there? Yes.
Yeah. Hi. My name is Shamim. So
Sure.
I've been Animesh, can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Yeah. So I have been in category management. So you understand category management, right?
Right.
So category management for the last, I would say around 16 years. Okay. So I'm heading the, earlier in India, I was heading the smartphone business. Here I'm heading the IT business in Dubai. Okay. My only query to you is that, see, you have talked lot about the product development part, you know. So
Right.
after going through your entire PPT and the presentation, what I have learned is that you have spoken mostly about how do you develop a product and the entire journey towards it, right?
Right.
Only thing is that see, in companies like like Samsung, for example, you know, or
Right.
you would say Apple, okay, or let's say Lenovo or HP, you know, in those companies, you know, you have a global roadmap. You know, the roadmap is defined. You know,
Right.
So there'll be no current there. Okay, in appliances, for example, appliances, there may be a country-wise roadmap. Whereas if I take an example of Apple, so there'll be only 4 phones in a year, and those are global phones, no change. Besides a little bit of change in terms of the software, in terms of the country-wise restriction, and maybe a color variant, or maybe a physical SIM or an eSIM kind of variant. So in that portfolio, so in those kind of companies, what is the exactly the role of a product manager? It's more about understanding that country's demand and customer demographics, and then trying to forecast the overall role, and then controlling the entire PNL end to end. That's how it goes.
Yeah. So I would say that like, that's where I called out that like this role actually started prominently into internet tech companies more. And so you'll find it more prominent over there. You could always have like sort of uh, synergic roles like into like other domains as well. Like, for example, I would say like as you said that in case, let's take example of Apple. So for Apple, it could be that like when it comes to product development, so product development is actually a different process over there. Like they actually have to do a lot of research and development when it comes to their hardware. Okay. That industry might not have product managers because at the end they would have actually a similar roles over there, but like at the end, like that team would actually be responsible to follow like some of the pattern that I actually, the product development part that I called out. Because whenever, let's say, Apple is coming up with a new phone every year, okay, they have to do that research. Like I called out, you have to do that customer research to understand that like now what your customer really requires. It's not that like you're just making some cosmetic changes and just launching a new product. So you have to identify that customer gap. Then to your point specifically, that like when we have a global product, so again, that role, it could be like it could be a product manager, or like it could be being called something else, but like that role has to ensure that they are basically keeping localization into mind. For example, it could be that like an expectation for a company, a country like India could be a lot more different when it comes to uh, uh, iPhone compared to anything else. For example, I know that like when it comes to like since here at Expedia also we work at a global level in launching products differently. I know that like countries like specifically like in North America, Europe, they have very strict customer privacy laws, privacy and security laws. Okay, so so that's the outcome of the research, that like when you're launching a certain product for that specific market, you have to ensure that like they are able to your device basically has all of those security certification compliances into place. But when it comes to company like Expedia, a country like India, where these privacy security laws are still in a development phase altogether, I would say they can have they can have a comparatively different variant of that product, where they do not have to invest a lot of time into ensuring these compliances. So because of that, you will actually see that like some of these smartphone providers are able to gather more customer data when it comes to company like India compared to anywhere else. And so like that's, I would say, like the net outcome here is that like it's quite possible that like for any company which is not in the internet tech space specifically, they could have similar roles into play. So that's why I kept emphasizing that like you are actually a problem solver. Now it could be called something else, like in your case it could be called um, product researcher or something else, but at the end you follow that logical process only. That like you identify your customer segment, you create user personas, then you prioritize and build your target segment, and then that becomes part of your release strategy. Exactly, in phase one I would be launching in India, and I would be able to get feedback from Asian side of the market, and then I'll move on to some other market. Let me know that like if
Okay.
this answered your question or yeah.
So you answered it very nicely. So basically, what I understood from your discussion right now, okay, because I was listening to you very carefully. My understanding before attending your session also, I was having that set of predefined notion in my mind, and which I agree with very strongly after your presentation, is that product management or category management and product marketing. Most of the companies, they call it product marketing. For example, if you go for a brand like Samsung,
Yeah.
or say Lenovo and all HP, they call it in HP it's called category. In Lenovo it's called again product marketing. In Samsung it's called product marketing. So all these profiles are same only. It's a different name for every version, right? Right to say?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, because everybody identifies the customer need and the entire journey and the flow, and then how enter the PNL of the product, and then the life cycle of the product follows.
Exactly. So the core of these profiles would be same, but if
Same.
I specifically talk about a product manager role in an internet tech companies, they would have, let's say, a bit more roles and responsibility. So I would say net 50-60% would actually be overlapping across industries. Rest,
Correct.
it would actually depend from industry to industry.
Yeah, for internet industry, or for service industry, it will be more of a assembling the package. So it's more inclined towards the product development and then product management, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah,
All right. Thank you so much.
right. Absolutely, Shama.
I hope, Shamim, your questions have been answered in an appropriate way. Now we go back to Ms. Ipsita Das. I'll unmute you. You can go ahead with your questions now.
Yes, hi, sir. Good
Yes.
afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Sir, I have a question that you said in the beginning that we, as a product manager, we need to make a roadmap. So, as an example, and when you're going to make a roadmap, obviously you should take your team to make the roadmap. So as an example, suppose in the middle of the roadmap, if you feel when you are making a project or any kind of product awareness or branding or targeting people, so targeting audience, so in the middle, if you feel that when you are making the roadmap there is some problem, or you are not going to make any that much of profit, so or that map is not appropriate properly, so in the middle you can change it, or you can still end will wait till end. Like as an example, Chandrayaan 3 first and second is not appeared properly, then they again made a new roadmap and they launch Chandrayaan 3. I am asking like that. So if you feel that while making the roadmap, if you feel that there is some problem, immediately you change it, or you will wait till end.
Got it. Okay, great. So great question on that, Ipsita. I would say, specific to, like, I would say, let's say, if I talk about, so again, roadmap, like it's up to you that like which kind of roadmap you are building. So like in my case, like I have different variation of a roadmap depending upon who the audience is. I'll have a roadmap that specifically talks about the product development cycle, right?
Yes.
And it is just meant for internal people, like for example, me, the developer team, the project manager. Then I'll have another roadmap which is at a features level. Like let's say at the end of the quarter, I'm able to launch feature X, then Y, then Z, and then the final product altogether. Then I'll have a roadmap which is at a strategy level, which you are basically saying that, like, let's say, could be anything. So like, as you said, let's take that example that at the after 1 year, so let's say like it can be multi-year initiative. So I created a roadmap for the next 5 years. For the first year, I created sort of an MVP, a minimal viable product of the Chandrayaan. And many times, like as I said, that like the roadmap will have both contingency plan in place, that like at the, so one is where at the end of the product development and launch, you basically, like it will either be a success or a failure. In case of failure, you basically assign like enough time on your plate, that like, let's say for like, if it is a failure, then our next 3 to 4 quarters would actually be improving so and so things. If not, then alternatively, we'll work on the next version of it. So that's at a very high level. So but if I talk about I'd say I'm in my product development cycle, and as you rightly said that correctly, let's say I'm building a rocket. I had a certain product requirements in place versus how we are going to build, and midway we realized, let's say a certain material is not available or it is not compatible, and you realize that like your rest of the story, so your rest of the development was highly dependent on this. Now you are in a blocked state. So now you at that point you have to basically make a pivot. That so this is what we basically called agile methodology that you guys would have heard in different that like so instead of you waiting for example building that entire rocket and then checking that like if it is a success or failure, you basically define different checkpoints. It can be I'm not really sure about the rocket terminology. Let's say in my phase one, like in my phase one, I'll launch the propeller part of it and I'll test it out. In the next phase, I'll figure out the load bearing capacity, the payload bearing capacity, and then that can be my next phase. So that is what we have in agile methodology, that like you break down the entire delivery into smaller checkpoints, and you have proper checkpoints to analyze that like if it is working as per the expectation. If not, you're able to pivot to a different thing. So you do not have to wait to the end of the product development cycle to actually get into to get that problem.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Right. Yeah. So now we can move on to
Great. So, Mrs. Ipsita, I think your questions have been answered in a very great way.
Yes.
And so we'll move forward with Mr. Manas Ranjan. I'm just unmuting him. Yeah. So, Mr. Manas, you can just raise your queries accordingly.
Hi, Animesh.
Hey,
This is
Manas.
Manas here. Being a product manager, the roles and responsibilities or like GTM approach towards a GTM will remain the same if somebody is working in India or somebody is working some other country, or is it going to be a tailored or custom approach towards the country specific region?
Right. So another great question, Manas. I would say that like when you're working at a global product, it could be that like, by global product, why I'm using a term global product is that like either if you're living in US and you are launching a product for the US market, it's technically not a global product. Okay. So you only have one single market that you have to focus upon. But let's say if I take Expedia as example, Expedia is basically present globally. So if I'm launching any feature, it will basically go like it will be available in America, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, like everywhere, like wherever Expedia is. So when it comes to launch strategy, some of the key things that really change is, one thing is when it comes to compliances. Okay, the compliances and the legality part of it. For example, when it comes to cruise, let's say Canada has a compliance that like whatever prices that we show on Expedia, all of those prices should be inclusive of tax. But outside of Canada, like it's not a compulsion, because many companies basically show the base price and then finally on the checkout step they add the taxes. So again, when you are, so this basically adds some additional work for your team when you're building a global product, that like it should be compliant to each and every geographies. That is one part of it. The other part that you have to take care is localization. It's not that like if you simply launch a particular product and it would be successful across the globe. So that's where you will actually see that I'll give you another example, that Expedia actually launched a particular product and it was performing great in the US market, and outside everywhere like it was underperforming. Then we realized was that whatever content, like let's say we launched a functionality, whatever content we had these translation tools. So it was just merely translating English to Hindi or to Chinese onto French. So if you'll see that like straightforward, if you're using a translation tool, sometimes the essence of that communication basically goes away. So then we realized that like after converting English to Chinese, it was actually making that communication not that impactful. So that's where we then see a lot of engagement from other countries. So that's where Expedia basically created a different team called as localization team, where they had experts on different languages so that they were able to add more human touch to the communication part of it. So after doing that, we started seeing an increased engagement. So these are the top two things that we face. Then apart from that, yes, there are like basically extension of these compliances only, and then how each of these countries, and then also the third part is the competitors also play a significant role. What kind of competitors are already present in that market? Let's say if anyone is trying to get into taxi services in India, we already have Ola and Uber. So they would actually have a different strategy for India compared to any country which do not have any taxi services at all.
Great. Thank you. Thanks.
So Manas, your questions have been answered. Now we'll move forward from Mr. Naveen. Naveen, I'll just be unmuting you. Second. Yeah. Naveen, you can ask your questions.
Hey, Naveen.
Naveen, you there?
Naveen, you're on mute if you're trying to speak.
Hello,
Yeah.
can you hear me?
Yes, Naveen. Hey.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible, Naveen.
Yeah. Hi. I just got something a different question. Considering this one aspect of product management. Now, as you explain the whole product life cycle, post the launch of the product, establishment of the product, as a product manager, does the role change only to look into the supplier and become a supply manager, supply chain management, or would that remain as a product manager? Because I'm just asking this question in context of the pharma industry.
Okay.
If we can
So
have some light on this.
I'm just reiterating to your question to what I understand. Your question is that like, will the role of a product manager change if I'm building product for end customer versus I'm building a product for the suppliers?
No. My question is, like, if you consider a pharma industry,
Okay.
we have a product manager. Like, suppose we are establishing a brand XYZ into the market, right? We have established that particular brand. However, after some time, the role of a product manager, though by designation he remains as a product manager only, however, after sometimes his whole focus or his concentration or more maybe the profile changes only into the supply management, or he's forced to look into the supply management. What is this?
So by supply management, you mean that like
Availability of products, then
Achha.
having a balance between the availability of the products and the demand from the market.
Okay.
It's focused only to that instead of having more build up or maybe having some more tangents to the products used in the market.
Right. Okay. So I've understood your question. So basically, it's about okay. So here are the few assumptions that we basically make when we are working in a product management role. Let's say we expect that we are already having a demand in place. Now we have to build relevant product for that demand. Okay. So we are not we are only we are not responsible, for example, we are not responsible for increasing the traffic that is coming on top of our customer funnel. In fact, so taking your example, let's say if I would have been an example in the pharmaceutical industry, my let's say goal would have been, let's say anything, like it would be launching a certain product. Okay. But ensuring that like that product is available, like the constant supply of that product is available or not will actually be out of my scope, because right now product manager's job is to basically build solutions out of existing problem. So if you're if you have a problem in your supply chain, that ideally is not like it will not be scope of a product manager until unless you are basically product manager of that supply chain in itself. And your problem is that like we do not have let's say a constant supply of products. If you are solving that problem, then yes, it would fall under your responsibility. But if you're responsible, but if instead you are a product manager of, let's say, selling a particular product in the pharmaceutical particular industry, then ideally we make some assumptions that like we have a constant supply of product. I hope that like that was what you were.
If suppose, like suppose, if we had one point in this, about the forecast.
About
As
the
a forecast,
oh,
I
okay.
give a forecast to the company that this XYZ brand or this XYZ product is going to get sold maybe around 1,000 units in a month,
Okay.
and accordingly I import it, or accordingly I manufacture it with
Okay.
1.5 as the rule, right?
Mhm.
If suppose I'm forecasting 1,000, I would manufacture 1,500. However,
Right.
if somebody asks this question, if the market scenario changes, if there is a change in the scenario or change in demand or so, and so forth. At this particular juncture, as a product manager, what should be a role like? We consider one point that the market scenario has changed, the demand has drastically gone up.
Right.
However, with the focus on with the manufacturing limitations, what I have, I can only go with 1,500.
Right. Got it. So yeah. So I would say that like that's where that like your initial part of the work that you basically do around research and discovery plays a significant role, because it's that like we basically take an assumption that like the time that I'm spending in research and discovery, ideally it is going to stay at the same state, and based on that I am basically building a certain solution. And let's say while I'm in the process of product development, if those situation basically changes, then obviously you have to make a pivot in your strategy as well. So like this is like what I was calling out earlier, that like you have to have an agile like strategy. For example, let's say like during the COVID times, like I was working when I was working with the cruise team, I had a certain roadmap in place, and then suddenly for complete 2 years, the entire business of cruise went to zero, right? So then we had to basically pivot at that point, because when I did my research and discovery, cruise was at its peak altogether in 2019. So for the next 2 years, I had to make a shift into my strategy that like what instead now I should be focusing upon, depending as more and more customers were canceling the cruise, more and more customers were looking out for better customer support. So I had to start focusing on that aspect of it. So yeah. So two things that like one is that like you have to ensure that like whatever forecasting, whatever research and discovery that like you are doing, it's quite thorough, and you should always have a contingency plan in place. Like as I kept on calling out, if things does not go as per your expectation, then what is going to be your pivot point at that point? So that's a skill set that you develop over the years, that like because it's like it requires a lot more effort. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I hope, Navin, your questions have been answered. Now we'll move to Venugopal Patil. Just a second, I'll unmute him. This is a request that I'll ask the learners to switch on their cameras when answering questioning any of the questions to the speaker. All right.
Hey, Venugopal.
Apologies, I've some glitches in my webcam. That's why I had to switch it off. My question is regarding the key difference between product and project managers and how much of their responsibilities actually overlap, and what are the major distinctions among these?
I would say that like they are actually poles apart, Venugopal, because it's like where a product manager's role starts is that like you come up, you identify customer problems, you build a business case, you build a solution, you build a roadmap, and then so basically in this entire process, you're already collaborating with the engineering team, with the project management team, with the stakeholders team. Once you finalize that, like, this is my final product that I have to build, you basically write down a product requirement document that basically has multiple acceptance criteria, that like my product should look like this, it should have so and so functionalities, it should be that and that, right? Now you basically hand it over to the engineering manager and the project manager. So engineering manager will basically break those works into more technical stories. Like as the example that I gave, that like if you have to build uh, a payment app, the engineering manager will basically break it into more technical stories, that like we'll first build camera scanning, oh sorry, a QR code scanning functionality, then payment functionality and all. Then project manager has to ensure that like the engineering team is delivering all of these things on time. If any delays basically happening because of the developers in itself, they will constantly work with the developers and the engineering manager to ensure that to basically find out what is the cause of the delay. If it is because of the developer itself, they basically escalate it to the engineering manager. If it is related to any external blockers, they escalate it back to product managers, saying that we are facing a blocker because of so and so reason. Then product manager decides that like should we hold on to it, or we can basically pivot toward different solutioning. Or if they say that like we have come across a blocker that like from technological perspective it's not possible, so then again they come back to. So in this overall goal, you'll see once a product manager hands over the strategy and the product requirement document to the developer and the project manager, they basically are now just associated 30% of the time, where project manager is now more closely working with the product manager. So they basically, a project manager ensure that like the project is working as per the delivery speed, and it is meeting on the delivery timelines. They do not work on any logical part of it, that like should this be the solution or not, is this the right solution or not, how we are tracking it or not. They're purely focused on ensuring that like we meet the timelines.
Mr. Venugopal, are you there?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
got an answer from him like in the chat.
Yeah, actually the thing is, yeah, great. So I'll start with Mr. Gaurav. Just a second, I'll just unmute him.
Hey Gaurav, hello.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes. But your
Yeah,
video,
sorry.
Gaurav, can you turn on your video? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Actually, I'm traveling, so sorry if there is a disturbance in background. So actually, just wanted to ask that, like, first of all, I have recently joined as a product executive in a pharma company, and as the company is developing, so they are like into like demanding many products to be launched in very near future. So the doubt that I have, like, maybe you also have faced this issue while developing any brand. Like after developing a particular product, after proposing it to the investors, I think about the product again and again, and something or other something kept coming in my mind that this could have been better, or this could have added, or this could have been not added. So you may have faced with this issue in your career as well, and if you have, then you have any suggestion for this thing?
Gaurav, I'm sorry, like I wasn't able to completely understand. So if you can just please reiterate.
Yeah, sure. So actually, my question is, like, recently I have proposed many products for my company.
Okay.
So after proposing the products and everything, I look into the products and again, just to see that if anything can be better and something or other comes up. So is it a bad thing or a good thing, or if it is a bad thing, so like looking again and again into the product and improving it after proposing also. So this is one of the issues that I have been facing for a long time now.
Yeah.
So if you have faced with the same issue in your career, then you might have some solution or suggestion for me.
Right. No, absolutely. Like I would say that like this is in fact a very great trait of a good product manager, that like, because many times it happens that like both that like once you have even built a product of your own, you could like, it could be a few months immediately after you would start feeling that like I could have built this thing in a better way, or
Correct.
like I can further improve it, or even it can happen like at the ideation part of it as well, when you are still ideating. But because as you gain experience, as you talk to more and more people, you get more perspectives out of it. So I would say that like product development is one of the great thing is that like it's a very iterative process. So I would say that like once you launch a certain product, and let's say you forecasted that like I would be able to improve my bottom line by X percent, okay, and you achieve that thing. And but like you constantly keep on finding these improvement areas which are able, because ideally you do not have any scaling, sky is the limit, okay. It can, you can improve anything to the best thing. So that's where we look out for customer funnel conversion. You'll always see that like at most, like even the best products have conversion rate like 5-10% at most. And I mean that like if 100 customers are getting into your booking funnel, only 5 or 10% customers are actually making a booking or so. So you will always have scope. But I would say that like where it turns out to be a bad thing is that when you like after a certain point, when you start uh, hitting a ceiling, when I say ceiling, that you are, although you are not able to see improvements, like even after constantly thinking about the possible improvements, neither from customer feedback nor from any other improvement areas, you are like, I mean, you are able to like develop like what's your best side of the things, and you are not able to come up anything new. Okay. Many times it actually happens is that like your product is able to extract the best out of your customers, but it could be that like it is not the only solution. It can be that like there can be some different solutions to it as well. Like for example, the cruise industry example I gave, I know that like doesn't matter how much effort I put into improving the cruise bookings altogether, I'll always have that feeling in place that like at the end customers are more comfortable booking it offline. So it doesn't matter how much you improve it, some customers will always have that mindset that like I'll book it offline because like it's more comfortable for me. So you have to ensure that like till the point you keep on getting significant analytics feedback. Like I mean that like from data perspective, you are able to get enough feedback that like let's say 5% of my customers or 10% of my customers can still improve. Like I can improve experience for these customers is great. But then if it is less than 1% or 2%, you can always find some alternate opportunities which is able to give you much higher return on investment. So so to summarize, it's always good to keep on finding these improvement areas, but then you have to always benchmark it to some other ideas that on which you are working upon, because your time is limited. You have to always work on things which have higher ROIs altogether.
Gaurav, you there? I hope Gaurav, your questions have been answered. I think so. There would be some network issues. Nevertheless, we'll start with Ms. Shikha. I'll ask her to unmute herself. Yeah, Shikha, you can go ahead with the question.
Hi, it was a lovely talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I have a question. There was one slide in your presentation wherein you showed that you exemplified basically a case of a customer and an agent. You showed their user persona, right? I mean,
Correct, yeah.
So my question is regarding the persona. What a customer persona in an ideal case is supposed to be like? Is it supposed to represent an individual customer who is part of your survey, like each and every person, or is it supposed to be altogether an average of all the customers or a category of the people? Because as per my understanding, we move on to the interviews only to get a qualitative data, not the quantitative part of it. So It's a little confusing there. Can you please clarify?
Right. First, I'll just share my screen. It will be easier for you guys. Huh? So I was working on one of the case studies, and okay. So usually the user person. Let me know once my screen is visible.
It's visible.
Yes,
So
it is.
a user persona basically, first of all, identifies to a group of individuals. Okay. And it could be that, so ideally we should have a healthy number of user persona. I mean, like it should be, let's say idealistically, sorry, realistically, you can have more than 100 user personas when it comes to your entire customer base. But you also have to ensure that you cannot work on each of these 100 small user personas. So you basically start categorizing them into bigger categories. Ideally, uh, somewhere around at most 5 to 7 user personas are actually good enough. So you have to categorize your customers into these groups. So for example, I was working on a case study for urban company. So if you'll see that we have a user persona altogether, a person who is basically a bachelor, and he is working in a tech company where they do not have enough time, and so that's where they will prefer urban company. Then you'll have another user persona where you have a family setup, right? A middle class family where both husband and wives are basically working, and they do not have any enough time to basically get ask and look around for any of these services. That's where they would be the right target group for urban company. When you will have a customer group which are basically senior citizens who basically do not have proper mobility, so that's where they would also prefer urban company, because they just on click of a few buttons they are able to book that services for their home. So that's how that you identify these bigger groups, and then you in fact can club. I'd say you can start with creating 6-7 groups, and then you realize that out of this 6-7 groups, majorly top 3 or 4 groups are showing similar things, so you can club those things also. So that's how we basically create this those are personas.
So would we specify each of these? For instance, for a senior citizen category, we should one here which mentions this name, Michelle. So in this case, would you mention that there were 50 more people who belong to the same category, and 50 of them are being represented by this specific persona?
Correct.
This lady.
So it was similar to an example of basically this Zomato example that I gave, where we basically build a clustering model that we feed in all of the details of each of the customers. It can be the demographics, like their age, their their location, the time of the activity, the time they spend on the activity, on the app, or how many bookings they have done in the past, at what time they basically access the app. Then at the so that clustering model will automatically consider all of these different variables, and it will give you smaller groups of individuals showing similar kind of behavior altogether. So same thing is here, that we realize that so since you have one type of user persona creation activity where you are using your own company's customers data to create it. Other is where you are doing market research. So in this case, we are gathering information by doing market research, that what could be the relevant customer segment, target segment for urban company. So in this case, we realize that urban company could be useful for this segment as well. So here you are doing market research based user persona creation, while the other form of it could be that already the customers that you are getting, how you are able to divide that customers into personas. The benefit of each of this approach is that the other approach where you are using customers data that you're already getting, you are just able to basically cater to your existing customers in a better way. But it could be that let's say these senior citizens are not aware about urban company or coming to urban company at all. So then you will not be able to target. So then you start looking outwards, that like what are the target segments I want my product to basically reach out to, and then we could create these user personas also.
Primarily, it would depend on our sample size, because if it's more generally, there would be a need to categorize them. If the sample size is really low, then in that case, we can actually just give each and every person.
Right, exactly. So either like if your sample size is low, either you can see that like if they're showing similar events to other category, you can club it, or you can deprioritize it also.
And then the cluster analysis is something which is followed by the user personas. It's a quantitative analysis based on the information collected through these interviews.
Exactly right, huh? But clustering analysis, like as I said, is basically more of inward looking, that whatever customers you are already getting, you are just trying to create personas to serve them better. But in order for you to expand your target customer base, now I'd say urban company wants to expand their services to senior citizens who are not currently their customers. So they have to create a new user persona altogether, a hypothetical user persona, and they have to like basically ensure that like their app is basically compatible to them. Like for example, it's more easier to understand, or it could be they can just have call to book functionality instead of searching it around the app, like functionalities like these. So you have to have a healthy mix of both the things. One will help you improve conversion of your existing customer base, while the other will help you expanding your customer base altogether.
Okay, thank you so much. That was really helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
So I hope, Shika, your questions have been answered. Now we'll move towards Anushna P. And unmute her. Anushna, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yes. Hi, Animesh, sorry. Yeah. So I had a question in stage of creating UI and UX. You said that at this point, the product manager will try to create a sketch in a wireframe. And how does it transition to a UX designer from there? Like, is it that from the start of the stage they work together, or is it the UX and UI designer working on it and the product manager supports it? How does this happen at this stage?
Yeah, I would say like it actually depends on the complexity of the product also. Like if you think that it's quite simple and straightforward, I basically just reach out to the UI UX designer, and I just like sort of give them a download of how I am planning or like expecting this product to actually look like, and they basically start getting into the higher fidelity version of those. Okay. But if it's, let's say, a completely new revamped experience altogether, so it's just like you can just consider it to be like a medium of explaining your requirements better. Now it can be that like if you think that like you just you would be able to explain everything better over a call, that's also great. If you think that like you would require some visual mediums altogether to explain them in a better way, so again you can show some hand-drawn drawings of wireframing. It's completely up to you and how your UI UX team basically prefers to collaborate. Yeah, so there is no hard and fast rule around it.
Anushna, you there? All right. Anushna, I think so you have already answered the question.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So I'll move forward for Mr. Shadraj. Mr. Shadraj, you can go ahead with your question.
Shadraj.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We have around 20-25 products in market. Out of 25, which is almost 5 products, which is launched very earlier, almost 10 years back. which is doing good in market. And also it is having some sort of error since it was launched the earlier period. After that, which was launched around 15-20 products, it's not having that kind of error. So now the product management team is not allowing product development team to touch that error. I mean, to rectify that error because of it is doing well in market. So as a product developer, what we anticipate, if we correct that error, it will do more. I mean, still it will go better in market, or it will sell more in market. That's
Right.
what our anticipation. So how to go about this?
Absolutely, I would say that, like, especially when it comes to such decisions, I always, like, when I had talked about having good influential skills, like, I always prefer to go with a more data-backed approach. If you have, like, sort of a more data-backed approach, that, like, if we, let's say, improve so and so things with the investment of so much effort, so you again can create a small business case around it, that, like, by spending X number of week for 2 or 3 engineers, we are able to improve this thing, and the anticipated uplift is XYZ%. So compared to anything else, so like that can be your business case, and then you can take that data and pitch it to your product team. And now you can always like sort of question your product team that, like, are you currently working on any product which has a higher ROI compared to this? And if no, then, like, I would say that, like, your product would actually have a greater chance, because, like, I've also seen that, like, many time some developers who are very much engaged onto a certain product that they have built, they in fact come, they correctly work with the analytics team, they come up with some data saying that, like, we can further improve it. And if the ROI is higher, I am always able to, like, I always prefer taking it, because at the end, like, all of us are like sort of working towards the same goal of increasing the business. Yeah.
Thank you, Animesh.
Thank you.
Nice.
Yeah, I hope Mr. Shatraj got his answers. Apart from that, we have next Ms. Pallavi Bhaume. You can go ahead with your question.
Hi,
Hi, Animesh. Hello.
Yeah. Hi.
Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, but I can get, I'm actually getting a lot of echo from your side.
So I just write down my question in the chat.
Are you connected with some other device also? Achha, no.
No, just one device.
By the time we can let Ganesh answer his, ask his question.
Till the time Pallavi is solving her laptop issue, we can go ahead with Mr. Ganesh and ask him to unmute himself. Yeah.
Good evening, Animesh.
Good evening.
My question is not very much technical, actually. I belong to this fire safety and security solutions industry. I have about 3 years of experience in designing, project designing, and 3.5 years in the sales experience. Basically, I'm from the sales experience, you can say. And I have a very much passion for this product management right now. And from the last couple of months, I have been learning what are the skills required to get into a PM role, like UX, UI, product roadmap. So many things I have been learning. So what is the correct approach to get into a PM role right now? What is the right approach for me?
Yeah, I would say that, like, there can be 2 approaches of it. Like you get some formal education on the same, like formal education, I mean, like some certification courses, like what Jaro Education is offering, or like anybody else is offering. That will not help you, although it will not help you correctly get a job, but it will definitely help you to get more of a theoretical understanding of how a product development happens, like, and like some more nitty-gritties to it and different aspects of it. And so yeah, so that will help you in your skill, like at least the theoretical skill building part. And it will might help you like get your foot into the door when it comes to getting at least shortlisted for interviews. That is one of the thing. The other part is that like you can always reach out to existing product managers and get mentorship from them, one-on-one mentorship. They can basically help you out in that. And the third one is basically which is like also pretty important, that like how you're able to like sort of frame your current experience in a way that anyone else like the interviewer is able to find a synergy between your current role and the product management role. So when I said that like you should focus a lot on what exactly problems that you are trying to solve, because that's the core of product management. If you are able to frame your resume experience into a way, that can also help in better shortlisting.
Yeah, okay. One more query is, I mean, some certain recruiters are especially asking for the projects I have done, the sample projects. So in that case, how many number of projects would be better,
I would say that like for practice purpose, you can do as much as possible, but like I would recommend at most 3 projects should actually be great, where you are actually where you are suggesting not just smaller improvements, I would say, where you are suggesting bigger improvements into some existing product. It could be, let's say, introducing a different line of business for Uber altogether. Okay, it could be a different area altogether where Paytm should be cutting into. And also it can be like you can use a very corrected approach also, that like for which company you are applying for, and directly you can in fact do a case study for them also. Like it would just increase your chances of getting shortlisted.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
Thank you, Animesh.
it would actually be enough. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope, Mr. Ganesh, your questions have been answered. Apart from that, Mr. Animesh, there is one question onto the chat box from Mr. Raj Christopher. He has a question that if I want to get into the aviation industry, will this product management will pave the way for it more than business analytics?
I actually have limited information on that, but like some of the information that I have, like my small answer would be no. It will not help you a lot, because I had a couple of program manager at Expedia who was working with Boeing, which is one of the largest airlines. He was basically working as a program manager over there, program manager, project manager. So roles like this can have synergy across industries, but product manager, I would say specifically product manager is more prominent in your internet tech companies that you are seeing.
Great, sir. So one more question from Ms. Pallavi. The thing is, the laptop is facing some issues, so I'll ask the question: how to stay fresh on the new technologies and tools and stay updated with the market and vary of customers as well as the competition?
Yeah, so on that, I would say that like what I currently do is basically it actually depends like how do you prefer consuming your content. I prefer consuming like more audio and video content. So like I have subscribed onto like if you just search product management podcast on YouTube, I've subscribed to like almost 10-15 channels, and I just keep saving them for later. So whenever I'm either driving or I'm just sitting idle, I just play those podcasts. So they greatly help me being up to date. Because since now I'm working for an MNC, I know that like I've slightly lost my touch when it comes to startups, like especially Indian startups compared to when I was working with Zomato. But like this is where I get most of my information. Other interesting, like I would say the next best platform that I use is like LinkedIn, I would say. Just be slightly more active on LinkedIn, like it will, because nowadays like it is acting as one of the crucial tool for recruitment also. So, and I've seen that like people actually now posting much more amazing content on LinkedIn. So just to keep things simple, like I would say that like stick with YouTube and LinkedIn, it should be enough. Yeah.
Great, sir. So there are 2 more questions, sir, from Mr. Mohan Raj. I'll ask him to unmute himself. Yeah. So Mr. Mohan, are you there?
Yeah, hi Sonali. Hi, Animesh.
Hey, Mohan.
Hi.
Hey, so sorry to drag you. Okay, the thing is like, as a product manager, so we have to like come up with a solution for the problems in all the directions. Like we have to handle a lot of departments at the same time, like apart from the deadline and the stakeholder problem, apart from it, while developing or like building a product. So what are the major and regular and issues we face, and like what you facing at your firm? So how you give solutions, and like do we have direct control over it, or we need to ask us people to people for suggestion, and then we have to take a solution?
I would say that like the two things that has always helped me, like especially in my second half of the career, because earlier like I used to struggle with it a lot, was one was prioritization. You have to be like super great at prioritization. I mean, like great in the sense that like you as a product manager, you'll always be randomized a lot. That like whenever you will be sitting at your desk, there would be folks coming to you, ask you about the current problem that you're currently working it. Developers will constantly come to you, ask with problems that you're currently facing. Then for existing products that you already have, you'll constantly be bugged by the customer service team, the engineering team, and the sales team that like we are getting so and so issues. So you have to always be a great prioritizer, because you cannot ignore things also, because eventually it will start getting escalated. Uh, so just compile things on your side. Like what I do is that like at the end of the day, I compile, let's say, top 6-7 issues that I've got, and I just quickly, like, you just have to do like quick mathematics. Like I've stopped basically doing the deep analysis on majority of the things, because now since I've got a hang of things, we call it napkin mathematics. Napkin mathematics is like you just do sort of a rough analysis on your side to understand the overall impact of the current issue, right? So it just helps you prioritizing that. Like majority of the time, let's say if you are facing 10 issues in a day, you only have to focus on the top 1 or 2 at most. Okay, so that is one of the thing. The other thing is that has actually helped me, like even more than this, is that like that influence wala part which I mentioned. The more you'll bring your uh, team on board with you, because even since launching a product is your success metric also, then it's a success metric for your developers as well, because at the end of the year they would be calling out like, this is what I launched. And so I trying to create the same enthusiasm in them, that like whatever vision I have for the product, and then this is XYZ millions of business that I expect this specific product to bring in. I've seen that like as I create the same excitement into them also, they are actually like in fact more engrossed into it. So many times it happens is that, like, let's say if I'm constantly getting a customer issues, I do not even have to like sort of go through the formal process, like creating a Jira for them, asking the program, asking the project manager to prioritize it for it, because I know since they are already invested into it, they in fact do it like they go out of the way also to solve some of the things. So that's how you delegate things. Then the same thing is that like you partner very closely with your project manager to delegate things. You ensure that like whenever you are getting like kudos to success of a product, you always give credit to your entire team. Like I mean, like give credit by their name. So all of these small activities, like over the course of time, builds like sort of great like kinds of appreciation in the team, and that will actually ultimately reduce your workload, because that has worked for me, like especially in the last couple of years, I'd say. So prioritization and building great relationships, that will like sort of reduce 30% of your workload altogether.
That's good. That's good. Thank you so much. So, is there any daily checkups or daily like other work? Do we do product manager have any regular checkups on developing project, or like existing project, or like some regularity we need to maintain, or some sheet?
So
Is there anything required?
So some of the checkups, I basically do 2 kinds of checkups, since we have a sprint based functioning in tech companies, a sprint is 14 days long. So I actually have end of the sprint check with the engineering manager and project manager, where they give me a download that like what we planned at the starting of the sprint and what we were able to achieve and what's the reasoning for it. Okay, so that like, because if we are running at a delay, it will impact rest of the timelines. That is one of the check I do. The other check that I would highly recommend is having a weekly check with the analytics team. And I've automated a lot of KPI reports, like key performance indicators for my business, that like almost every day I get these reports, I'd say for the top 3 to 4 business metric that I have to just spend 5-7 minutes every day to see that like if anything is basically going down. Let's say I suddenly see that like I get how many orders we're getting every day. Take the conversion rate. If I see on a day that like the conversion rate is 15% down, I immediately know that like this is my highest priority thing, and I have to like inform rest of the team to start looking into it. I try to reduce my human interaction like when it comes to these repetitive things. So that's where I prefer building in more alerts into the system, that like if anything is going wrong, there should be some sort of like internal automated alerts, so that nobody has to like invest a lot of time into opening the dashboards and going through it. Yeah.
So what are the softwares or things you use for those things?
So
To
every
get
company
update
has
or
their own analytics dashboard. So we currently use Omniture, Adobe Analytics, Omniture. So yeah, like almost like every analytics tool will have such form of reporting and alerting in place.
Okay, yeah, that's good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So the last question is from Mr. Abhishek. I'll just unmute him. Yeah, Mr. Abhishek, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Hi, Animesh.
Hello.
The movie analogy was spot on, and thank you for taking time on Saturday and explaining us how the things work. Yeah. So basically, I had a question, Animesh, around. See, I mean, as you said, this profile would be the most, or I would say, super collaborative, right? So how would you, as a how would I in future as a project manager, product manager, set up right expectations with my client about the deadlines, the timelines, and what would be the metrics that I would consider to to bring it on the table.
Right. So that's what I would say, that like it's always a very collective effort altogether. Let's say if you're working for a client-facing company, okay. So let's say you are directly interacting with the client. Let's say so. Whatever timelines that you get, so it is basically combination of different teams working towards meeting that timeline. So so that's where I said that like we have these checkpoints in place. Now it would depend from business to business. I'd say if you have said to your client that like we'll deliver this thing in the next 6 months, okay, so it's up to you that like to what level of depth you basically want to get into. If you guys also work at a sprint level, you can keep for 14 days checks in place to do like similar form of exercises, that like if you're on track, thumbs up. If not, then what's the reasoning, how we can and then also sort of will we be able to meet the end timeline. So at every check we do this exercise, that like will we be able to like still accommodate the delay, or it will finally impact. So there would be four things to summarize with: having frequent checks in place, and then informing earlier about any delays. So that will always give like help you earning more credibility. And then finally, I would say that like as I said, that like the more you are able to bring everyone on board onto the same enthusiasm you have for your product, automatically you'll see everyone will be like meeting the delivery timelines. But I know that like in a realistic world, it's still not possible, but you can always keep on trying to ensure that like, at least from product side, what's the best you can do to meet that.
Yes, thank you so much. And also, just a last, question, I would say, how the AI as of now is impacting this animation. I mean, what are the tools that we can use in order to collaborate in a, as I was thinking, see, you spoke about the UI UX, and someone from the team was having the same question around the UI UX and all, right? So now that we have AI tools, how can we collaborate with the AI tools that we have, and in various aspects, and get the things done in a faster way, right? So how and what are the tools that you usually use, or how is AI impacting this product manager position?
Yeah, I would say I, as of now, have been using Chat GPT a lot, because it has helped me like sort of when it comes to inward communication or outward communication, like framing it, like I have to spend a lot less time on the same. Then when it comes to organizing information, especially like when you have to write a product requirement document, it basically takes a lot of time. So now I have to just ensure that like I have all the crucial information in place. The rest, it comes to like I used IP2 to just make it more structured and presentable, so that like everyone is able to understand. So those are some of the aspects that I am like how I'm taking benefit of the AI revolution. Rest is at a company level. In fact, like each of the team has been strongly advised to now find areas where we can incorporate AI. So I would say that like at a company level also, that like it is something that it's good that like it's being imposed upon, or else if it's not imposed, you yourself can take initiatives to find key where you can include AI altogether to open more opportunities.
Okay, I mean, with the right inputs to the AI would give us a lot of benefits, I would say.
Right. Correct prompt.
That's it from my end. Anyways, thank you so much for the session, and thank you so much, Jaro, for helping us.
Absolutely, happy to.
I hope, Abhishek, your questions have been answered in an appropriate way. Apart from that, we'll be giving a vote of thanks to Mr. Animesh. So, Mr. Animesh, I thank you for joining us today at this insightful product management bootcamp on behalf of Jaro Education and the entire team. I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each and every one of you for your active participation. Furthermore, I would wish to express appreciation to our guest speaker, Mr. Animesh Chandra, sir. Thank you for sharing your invaluable expertise, experiences, and practical insights, and we are grateful for your time and effort. Last but not the least, thank you, audience. Your active involvement, questions, and enthusiastic engagement truly made this a collaborative experience. We hope that the knowledge and the ideas shared during this event will positively impact your future product management endeavors. We look forward to hosting more engaging and enlightening events in the future. I have texted feedback form on the chat. Please share your feedbacks. Thank you once again and have a wonderful day ahead. Follow Jaro Education on social media platforms for more updates, and download Jaro Connect app, available on Play Store as well as App Store. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Animesh.
Thank you, everyone. It was a great session. Thank you for all the interaction. And I would say that like you feel free to reach out to me over LinkedIn in case you have some other questions, or you need some mentorship on the same. I would be happy to help on the same.
Thank you so much, sir.
Great. Thank you.